Today is a very special day because it is the 1-year anniversary on the dot of the date that the Vancouver Canucks decided to go down a new direction. A winning direction, if you wanted to go out there and spin that narrative. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the Bo Horvat trade, wherein the Vancouver Canucks sent their captain over to the New York Islanders in a package deal that saw a lot of Canucks fans freaking out with joy, excitement, and maybe a little bit of uneasiness. Let's talk about this trade 1 year after it happened, where these assets have gone, and how Bo Horvat, the man himself, has been since then. Now, context behind everything that's been going on here. The biggest topic heading into the Vancouver Canucks 2022-2023 season, so last year's season, was the fact that forward JT Miller was given a contract extension before the season began, which saw him making $8 million a year over 7 years. A lot of fans said, okay, this is not great, because Miller is going to be old, Miller is not going to age well into the contract, and this contract is going to prohibit the Vancouver Canucks from giving Bo Horvat the money that he's due. They're both expiring around the same time, so the fact that Miller got the extension before Captain Bo put a sour taste in a lot of Canucks fans' mouths when it came to the direction of the team. Vancouver essentially chose JT Miller over Bo Horvat. And as the season went on, Bo was a beast, getting 54 points in 49 games played and 31 goals on top of that too. Just examine that goal production. 31 goals over 49 games played is on pace for about 50 goals in a full year. So Bo Horvat was putting the puck in the back of the net like crazy, and it was a contract season. So, essentially, he kind of priced himself out of the team. He was so good that you could very well say that his services would come at a price tag that the Vancouver Canucks may not have been willing to pay. Which is why he got sent over to the New York Islanders on January 30th, 2023, and the Islanders subsequently signed Bo Horvat to an $8.5 million extension, which started this season and goes on till 2030-2031. Let's examine the trade first, and then we'll get into each of the assets. The Vancouver Canucks traded Bo to the Islanders with 25% salary retained in exchange for Anthony Beauvillier, Aatu, and a 2023 conditional first-round pick, which ended up being the 17th overall pick in the 2023 draft. Now, before we get into all the assets, let's talk about Bo Horvat first and foremost, because ever since he was given that $8.5 million extension, he's been more or less alright with the Islanders. He started out his campaign with that team, scoring 16 points in 30 games played at the end of last season. This year, though, he's at 45 points in 48 games played and on pace for 34 goals. While his goal production this year is certainly not in the same 50-goal caliber pace he had last year with the Vancouver Canucks, he's still been one of the main contributors on this Islanders team when it comes to offense. It's him, Dobson, and Barzal that are pretty much leading the charge on this team, and Islanders fans are taking big notice of this, that Bo is a leader type of guy who can put the puck in the back of the net. He has been exhibiting a lot of these qualities in Vancouver too, so the fact that he's gone out there and done this on the island is not really too surprising to me. We even had a conversation earlier in the year debating whether or not Bo Horvat is pretty much bringing the Islanders what they wanted to see out of John Tavares before he left for Toronto all those years ago. That was an interesting conversation to be had, but it was certainly one where the argument does exist, and the fact that Bo is even being included in conversations like these says to me that there's a pretty positive response to this guy being added to the team. They needed their trigger man, they needed their goal scorer. Bo Horvat was that, and now he's signed on till 2031, with a cap hit that the Vancouver Canucks just would not have been willing to pay. Now, when you go over the assets that the Canucks got in return, Anthony Beauvillier is no longer a Vancouver Canuck. He got traded to Chicago after admittedly posting some pretty good numbers with Vancouver last year. He had 20 points in 33 games played to end off 22-23, but then this season, he was just really not great. 8 points, 22 games played. He got traded over to Chicago with no salary retained, which is crazy because this was a bottom six guy making $4.1 million a year to the end of this season. And in Chicago, he's got 6 points in 15 games played right now. You could say that the Beauvillier aspect of the trade was pretty redundant, but the fact is the Vancouver Canucks got extra cap space with this Beauvillier move, and they were able to use some of their extra draft capital to get Nikita Zadorov in return, which was a really good acquisition. Zadorov is still on the team today. He's making $3.75 million a year against the Vancouver Canucks cap, and he signed on to the end of this season, like Beauvillier was. At the end of the day, Anthony Beauvillier and Zadorov, you could very much say that Z is the more valuable of the two, and because the trade of Beauvillier opened up the monetary space to allow this to happen, you could, by proxy, say that Zadorov was one of the key trade tree results of the Bo Horvat swap. Next up, in regards to assets that this trade brought Vancouver, you've got Aatu, who's playing in the Abbotsford Canucks this season with 25 points in 40 games played. Now, this is a pretty good number. It's around the same point production metric that he had last season with the Bridgeport Islanders. But as Aatu has been playing in Abbotsford, he's been growing his game, he's been getting a lot more comfortable, and this being his second pro season in North America, it's definitely been a pretty alright transition for a guy who is only 21 years old at the moment. We all recognize that there's some middle six to top six potential here with Aatu. He could become a nice playmaker center, and for a guy that was supposed to be the first overall pick in the 2021 draft, but slipped all the way to the second round, I was always super happy that the Vancouver Canucks were able to find themselves this player in this trade. And a lot of Islanders fans, too, were kind of bummed when they saw Ratu's name get included in the deal, which, at the end of the day, I mean, it's not surprising. They needed to add some value to get Bo Horvat away from Vancouver, but Ratu being the piece, I like it a lot. He's been alright with Abbotsford, definitely growing and progressing with that system. He's got the Sandins going out there and mentoring him alongside of all the other Abby baby Canucks in there. So Ratu's definitely a prospect that I like to see. He has been alright, too. And then you have yourselves the final aspect of this trade that the Vancouver Canucks got in return. The 2023 New York Islanders first-round pick that was traded away to the Detroit Red Wings in order for them to select Axel Sandin Pellikka. Now, we did make our video just a few days ago debating whether or not the trade, which we saw the Canucks send over this first-round pick to Detroit for Filip Hronek, was a mistake. This actually wasn't being told from the perspective of the Canucks making a mistake, but more so from the perspective of the Red Wings making a mistake. Because Filip Hronek right now, in the Vancouver system, is literally one of the top-scoring defensemen in the entire NHL. He's got 36 points in 49 games played, on pace for 60 on the season, and he's a plus 33 too. He's been very good this year for the Vancouver Canucks. 33 assists in 49 games played. He has been awesome, especially when paired with Quinn Hughes, and the trade which saw him get sent over from Detroit for that New York Islanders first-round pick was a pretty big win-win, because the Red Wings right now are dealing with a prospect on their hands in Axel Sandin Pellikka that they absolutely love. He's looking to become a guy who maybe has a higher ceiling than Filip Hronek. But as we had talked about in the video a few days ago, the Vancouver Canucks probably could not have afforded to wait for a guy like Axel Sandin Pellikka to become as good as he's going to be. The fact that they sped up this process by trading the pick away for Filip Hronek, who is good now, who can help out the team in the present tense, that's a good move, contextually speaking, because the Vancouver Canucks right now, literally the top team in the NHL in terms of points and points percentage. They're tied with Boston, but they have the tiebreaker. They're the best team in the NHL right now. So when it comes to the holistic view of the Bo Horvat trade, where if you wanted to kind of proxy everything out and formulate it down to the nitty-gritty, the Vancouver Canucks essentially traded away Bo Horvat for the ability to trade for Nikita Zadorov, prospect Aatu, and Filip Hronek. That's an entire D pairing and a great prospect. And for Bo Horvat, who has admittedly gotten the paycheck that the Vancouver Canucks could not have touched in this organization, going over to an Islanders team that is using his services and that is relying upon him like a number one player, this seems like a pretty big win-win trade. Unless, of course, you wanted to say that the New York Islanders, with their opportunity to get a guy like Aatu in the system again, or the ability to trade for a Filip Hronek or something like that, would have been valuable too, but I don't think that would have really fit with what the Islanders had in mind. Lou Lamoriello works in very mysterious ways. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Bo Horvat trade 1 year after it happened? Do you like it? Do you not like it? If you're a Canucks fan, if you're an Islanders fan, what are your opinions about this entire deal 1 year after the fact? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99, and bye.